Hey there, hello, there's Jeff Cutter Diamond. Welcome to another second and 10 football tournament. We are doing the 2000s decade now for the NCAA. All 32 teams involved were the representatives in last year's NCAA Legends Tourney, 128 schools, 128 teams, one team per school to find out who's the best around. And these 32 schools have had their moments in the sun. Last week I recorded it like off screen and all that. So here's what happened. The 04 California squad with the young Aaron Rodgers crushed Texas State 38-14. 01 East Carolina with David Garrard picking up the pieces took down Oregon State, winning a trip to the Rose Bowl, trying to ruin make sure that school with its bad reputation didn't get it, but that didn't happen in this one. 07 Kansas, the team that shocked the world by becoming a top 10 team despite Kansas being a terrible football school. They took down Eastern Illinois and Tony Romo 37-7. 07 West Virginia, Patrick White doing the job. Of course, a lot of people thought West Virginia should have been in the national championship game. They would have if they didn't lose to Pittsburgh on the final Thursday of the season. They beat 04 Iowa, Drew Tate with that great play at Capital One Bowl, 52-29. 04 Utah with Alex Smith, the future number one draft pick. 5 touchdown passes against Hawaii that shocked the world by being undefeated and getting to a BCS game. The 06 Rutgers squad with Ray Rice on it until took down Texas Tech with their passing attack by Cliff Kingsbury, 44-31. 05 Texas, the 2006 national champs, they took out Bowling Green's team 47-21 thanks to Jamal Charles' running game. Although you got to say that, Vince Young was a good player too. 02 North Carolina State survived. Phillip Rivers and co. survived Ball State's 4 touchdowns from Nate Davis. Wake Forest, that they won the ACC title in 06. They beat 09 Central Michigan with Dan Lefevre 32-27. Antonio Brown with a pair of touchdowns for Central Michigan. 04 USC, the team that won the 2005 national championship against 03 Miami Ohio Ben Roethlisberger. USC wins 52-24. Matt Leinart with 3 touchdown passes. Boise State, the 06 team, the team that beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl with the 3 plays that changed the world. They beat Fresno 49-21. Sabransky with 4 touchdown passes. 07 Kentucky, who shocked LSU, the number 1 seed in triple overtime in the regular season, took down Joe Flacco in Delaware 30-24 thanks to 3 touchdowns from Andre Woodson. 07 South Florida taking out 07 App State. What a crazy 07 season that USF got to be as high as number 2 at one time. And Appalachian State, that victory over Michigan. But South Florida won. 04 Louisville, that shocked everyone by making a BCS Bowl. They crushed Middle Tennessee 56-17 thanks to Stephen LaForce. 02 Ohio State winning the 2003 national title game a little bit controversially. They took down Buffalo's best 42-20 thanks to Frank Cancel. And 07 Florida against 07 Illinois. Illinois shocked the number 1 seed Ohio State in Ohio State, and then Florida ended up winning the title 28-14. Tim Tebow 4 touchdown passes. Let's get to the Sweet 16. You have Cal, East Carolina, Kansas, West Virginia, Utah, Rutgers, Texas, North Carolina State, Wake, USC, Boise State, Kentucky, South Florida, Louisville, and Ohio State, Florida. Ohio State, Florida will be the 8th and final matchup. And of course, as always, we go from east to west. And East Carolina is close to the Atlantic, so we'll go that one first against Cal. Cal's everybody has lots of teams. Aaron Rodgers, the guy that lots of teams passed on, and Green Bay picked him up, and he became the Green Bay legend. At pivot, J.J. Arrington, future Niner. Running back, Jeff MacArthur, Jonathan McClellan, and Cole Toller will be the wide receiver picks teams tight end. Remember, everything changes. Andrew Cameron, no guys though, so Joyce has to come in as a guard. Martin Phillip, Aaron Mertz, and Ryan O'Callahan. ECU, Ty Hunt, Chris Howell, Bernard Williams, the defensive line. Gilliam, Greg Lefebvre, John Williamson, and Cornell Griffin, the linebacker. DBs, Gerald Stewart, Anthony Adams, Travis Heath, and Kelly Purdy. The Golden Bears, yeah, they were pretty good. I could have easily put the 07 Bears on that team, because that was the team that actually was number 2 at one point, but their quarterback got hurt, and then the backup quarterback was like future Jaguar at pivot. Leonard Henry, I think he went to the NFL. Alongside Terrence Cooper will run the ball start. Derek Collier and Marcus White and Corey Floyd play receiver. Brian Riff, Aaron Walker, Doug White, Corey Schmidt, and Brandon Pope on your own line. Alistair Light, Lorenzo Alexander, Brandon Manning, Ryan Riddle, Tom Simchek, Francis Blade, Wendell Hunter, and Joe Minico. Your linebackers, Matthew O'Donnell, Ryan Gutierrez, David Hughes, and Chris Smith. East Carolina played that great bowl game against June against Marshall.
First down. First down. Good.
Experts on trip is pass.
Is good. Roughing the passer. Defense. It's good. Touchdown. The extra point is good. Personal foul. Offense. Timeout defense. First down. Timeout defense.
Cal will win the game. Cal, Utah's the MVP. East Carolina basically had Cal for lunch. Cal had no turnovers. Box score, guard, 21 for 42, 347 touchdown. Henry almost got 100 yards. Rogers 17 for 27, 253, and 113 yards for Harrington. Carter 124 yards receiving. Rogers Williams. So yeah, Cal looked pretty decent. It's close. Just 5 red zone trips from Cal. East Carolina only had 2. Cross lineman Geisel on the field. I don't think that really hurt. Aaron Rodgers is the winner. Next, we head to New Jersey. That's close to the Atlantic Ocean. So Utah and Rutgers goes second. Mike Teal at pivot. Ray Rice at running back with Brian Leonard. I know technically I should say he who shall not be named because of that domestic violence crap going on. Kenny Britt, who was a Tennessee tight end. William Foster and Clark Harris are your receivers to start with. Pedro Sosa, Mike Waddell, Darnell Stapleton, Cam Stevenson, and Jeremy Suta. These are your O-line. D-line for Utah. Jonathan Fernandez, Vita, Zion Luna, and Marcus Ledbetter. Mark out to Tony Hackenbrock and Spencer Tudor, your linebackers. Your DBs, Bo Nagaki, Morgan Skelly, Kurt Weddle, future NFL, Ryan Smith. And Rutgers this week when they took down Louisville and good.
Live on the play. Personal foul. Offense.
Once again.
First down. First down. Flag on the play.
Flag.
Pass interference. Defense. First down. First down. Flag on the play. 12 men on the field. Offense. Is good. Timeout offense. It's good. It's good. Good. Touchdown. The extra point is good.
Smith 12 for 24, 159. Yeah, it was a close one. Smith actually ran for 44 yards to tie the game. 44 yards. Those games got their final. 3 trips to Utah. Rutgers at 4. All was good. Tucker from Rutgers was unavailable, but he kind of won the game. I think they're close to the Atlantic Ocean too. Nice, that's good. All right, Texas, North Carolina State goes next. Ncaa going back to Hero drills are received steam tungsten. Try that. Hold on. Joseph Glenn, Will Allen, Miles Sendling, Casey Stoddard, John Scott, NC State's D-line Sean Price, Burke Hall, Terrence Morton, and G. Anderson, Aldrich White, D'Antonio Burnett, Pat Thompson, linebackers, Lamont Reed, Terrence Holt, Richard Brown, Drew Maddox, and Marcus Hudson. Yeah, Texas is the team that went all the way to face USC for their compelling winning streak. Lots of people went to USC. I actually think Texas was like, we're going to be USC this season. They'll do it. And Lord Mighty, that's right. 2-10.
First down. First down.
And Campbell, 4 yards. After return. Oh, by the way, yeah, because this was teams for the NCAA tournament, I added like the legends of their team. Yeah, they like these words.
First down.
Flag on the play.
Flagrant face mask. Defense. First down.
The extra point is good.
Rivers, the future pride of the Chargers organization, so much so they got their Drew Brees and he went to New Orleans to help that team. The pivot T. A. McGlennon, Josh Brown will run the ball. Jericho Coffey, Andy Berger, and Sean Burton to start with. Scott Calista, Shane Riggs, Jed Paulson, Sean Knight, Chris Palmer. D-line, Kenneth Sims, of course, 15. Rico Ray, Stephen Michaels, on the team, Brian Robson, Aaron Harris, Robert Pilgrim, Rashad Bavino, linebackers, Terrell Brown, Michael Griffin, Michael Huff, and Cedric Griffin, defensive backs. What a job, NFL running guys. NC State, you gotta have one field Rivers.
First down. Pass interference. Defense. First down. Timeout. Defense.
much over. Or not much money, right? Your man. No turnovers for Texas. That's complete. You win. You're safe. Numbers 19 for 32, 208. Young 17 for 22, 43 touchdowns. You're in for 72 to lead the team. Yeah. Young to Cosby for 300 yards. Taylor. Yeah, it was turning 14, and then Texas with 3 straight touchdowns. Well, Texas. Selman Young is actually hurt, but who cares? He's fine. West Virginia also is on the East Coast, stuff like Kansas and the Battle Pat White, quarterback, he did play wide receiver for a few teams in the NFL. No decline from Schmidt, running backs. Tito Gonzalez, Darius Raymond, Sam Ryan, just started wide receiver. Selfish Capers, with a name Frank Isner, here in the Life Hospital Stadium. Mike Dent, Jake Big Muir, and Ryan Stanczyk. West Virginia, Kansas, Steve Light, Caleb Blakesley, John Larson, James McClinton, Russell Corson. Joe Mortensen, James Holt, Mike Rivera, your linebackers. Akeem Talib, future star for the Bucks. Chris Harris, starts the league, and Patrick Wesley on DBs. Anyway, West Virginia, team that had the chance to go to the national title, in place in one of the craziest, if not the craziest, college football season of all time. I dare predict someone more than 07. And they lost 13-9 in the backyard brawl at home against Pitt. And
First down.
First down. This is fine.
First down.
Andrews, Antonio Lewis, Ryan Mundy, Eric Wicks, Ray Williams, defensive backs. Oh, and you get 5 defensive backs, they have 5 minutes. Kansas is the team that was one of the worst in modern football. Somehow, in some freaking way, they were as high as number 2 in the NCAA, and they lost to Missouri, and Kansas City, which had and much since then.
First down. First down. Personal foul. Defense. First down.
good.
All fun success. So that's that, and we're gonna head to Louisville, right? There's two games in Kentucky. Louisville will host South Florida first. Jared Russell, Montreal Jones, and Colorado Seniors. Third, Chicago, Lucius Pitts, Blake Repperton, Corner, Travis Slayfield, line, Florida's D line, George Shelby, Louis, Flavor, and Cray. Linebackers, Ben Moffitt, S. McKenzie, Jenkins, Murphy, Allen Robinson, Louisville, a team that shot down my goal. Yes. 6 yards.
First down.
Flag on the play.
Pass interference. Defense. First down. First down. First down.
Flag on the play.
False start. Offense.
Stefan. Well, Brown is the starter. Brown was the starter. Oh. Of course, he was playing the CFL for now in Edmonton.
Good.
Roughly 6 for 19, 63 yards and an interception. 3 24 movement. To Kentucky. Boise State, Kentucky. John Connor and Broccoli Little will run the ball. Keem Burton, Stephen Johnson, Jerry Ncaa are receivers. Justin Jeffries, Sid Duncan, Eric Scott, J.C. Leger, and Gary Williams in road line. Boise's D line, Blake Williams, Andrew Browning, Dennis Ellis, and Nick Shackley. Linebackers, Corey Hall, Cole Brooks, and Kyle Jins. Kyle Wilson, Marty Tanner, Gerald Alexander, Nicholas Andrick are your line defensive backs. Kentucky, the couple triple wins up to the number 1 seed Alex Green. The 2007 season, and they looked good. And 2-10.
First down. First down. First down.
Live on the play.
False start. Offense.
Boise to the 20, Jared Spransky. This is quarterback, great. Ian Johnson, the man who helped Boise win the game against Oklahoma, and Brad Lau. Actor Jared Rabin, Justin James, Richie Brocco, your receivers. The old line is Ryan Flatty, Tad Miller, Jaden Daly, Pete Cavinder, and Andy Woodruff. Kentucky D line, Jeremy Jarman, Dominic Lewis, Quirky was in Fire. Braxton Kelly, Johnny Williams, and Wesley Williams were linebackers. Trevor Lindley, Markson Clinton, Paul Warford, Rex Williams were DBs. So, Boise State, the team that mentioned the football were expected to get shelled. Danger Peterson, naturally, which they did, but then Boise had that famous three plays that shocked the world. The first one was the lateral from James to, I think, Brad, and he just enough in the end zone. And then Boise went with the trick play of Zabransky in motion, and then Vinny Pereira bring a touchdown. And then came 2-point convert. They went for it, and Lee and Johnson used the catch and scored.
First down. First down.
Flag on the play.
Roughing the passer. Defense. First down.
Good.
Timeout. Defense. Timeout. Defense. Timeout. Defense. First down.
Bransky 18 for 32, 221, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, 145 for Ian Johnson. So anyway, yeah, tough game. 21-13. Boise went for 2 after making 21-19, and that was the difference. 6 trips to the red zone, 5 were in there, but the interception ruined them. I think that was how Boise State missed the game. Calvin Dollar got we're on with 2 games. Wake and USC will be next. The only game on the West Coast.
Flag on the play.
Illegal use of hands. Receiving team.
Now Wake starts at running back, of course, you know who will be coming soon. Wayne Jarrett, Keyshawn Johnson, you know, Legends teams, and then Chris McCoy, you know, Superstar with Breaker Chant. Sam Baker, Fred Matua, Ryan Khalil, John Drake, and Junior, your tight ends, Mike Forrest, Eli Giles, Tucker, Brian Andrews, Saxon Smith, linebackers, Aaron Curry, Sandy, John Rowney. Alfonso Smith, Joe Gaddis, Patrick Key, and Brandon Swanson. USC, this was their second of their back-to-back national championships, and they almost had the 2006 one, but they failed.
First down.
Well, Riley Skinner starts a pivot. Kenneth Moore, D'Angelo Bryant, and the running backs. Willie Aguilar, Kevin Murray, and John Krasinski and receivers. Steve Ballas, Lee Frazier, Steve Justice, Chris McCurry, Cody Jones, and line. SC line, Sean Cody, Richard Jett, Orange Jackson, Mike Patterson, Preston Webber. Junior Seau now starts at Loka Tatupu, future Seahawk linebacker, Troy Polonio, Sledge and Ryan linebacker, Great, and Justin Bryant. Wake Forest won the ACC at a shocking win.
First down.
Wow, now they have to put gas on.
First down. First down. Timeout, offense. First down.
Flag on the play.
Holding. Defense.
First down. First down.
Unreal. I didn't think that would happen, but Wake Forest has just brought this tournament to its knees. 3 touchdowns for Riley Skinner. Wake Forest was outscored. They had one turnovers. Wake only had 1 turnover. Liner 28 for 35, 290 and 2 interceptions. Castle 2 for 2 and 55 yards. And that one running. Bush only had 16 yards. Oh. Skinner 22 for 34, 273 touchdowns. Brady wasn't there. Idolette was there. Wake Forest was up 20-3 at one point. It would look like this would be a massive upset. Now they're up 23-9, and then blocked punt by running a lot in 23-16 Castle. Wake Forest had 155, and they were close. A 99-yard touchdown drive. Castle to Brennan, and then Bryant tied it, and then Lennell White tied it, and then he made 37-30, and then Skinner at the pilot on 4th down tied it, and then Swank field goal. Regulation 3 red zone trips for Wake Forest with points. 6 for USC. They had a missed field goal in the second quarter and an interception in the third. Yeah, with 2:07 left, they were at the 1-yard line. They went 99 yards in 7 plays. Yeah. It's 2-1. Liner to Bush for 9 yards, and then Liner to Bird for 13 yards, but he got shaken up and had to leave the game. And Castle's quarterback scrambled for 1st down to the 37. Castle then threw a 50-yard bomb to Dwayne Jarrett to the 13. Castle will end up wait. The 8. Then a few quarterbacks scrambles in the game. 40-37 Wake Forest is your winner. Unreal. Andrews and Graham and Byers were all in, but then Wake Forest with a massive upset. Triple overtime. 37, sorry. Ohio State, Florida, unfortunately, time constraints mean that I can't do the game. And in the end, Florida wins. Tim Tebow with 4 touchdown passes. He even ran for 3, so he was responsible for all the touchdowns. So Tim Tebow does its job. So three home teams lost. Well, East Carolina losing the Cal 24-17. That was a kind of a weird game. West Virginia being up, but Kansas is battle the 07 27-3. Rutgers surviving 04 Utah 23-20. Texas crushing North Carolina State. Wake Forest with that overtime heroics against USC 40-37. Boise losing by a missed 2-point convert 28-26 to Kentucky. Louisville crushing South Florida, and Florida crushing Ohio State. So anyway, Tim Tebow is your offensive player of the week. 338 passing. David Garrard, number 1. Ian Johnson 145, White 116. Shelton, Arrington, Rice, and White running the ball for over 100 yards. So yeah, Jermaine Cunningham of Florida, the defense player of the week, and special teams player Sam Swank for the winning plays. David Garrard is your passing leader. Your rushing leader is Ian Johnson, but he's out of luck. Points, Daniels Rainier, Steve Slade, and Sam Swank with 30 points. On to the quarterfinals. We have Cal, West Virginia, so we have Pat White versus Aaron Rodgers. Rutgers, Texas, so Ray Rice versus Vince Young. Wake Forest, Kentucky. That's actually going to be a tough one. Yeah, USC would have played Kentucky, but yeah, Wake Forest will play Kentucky now. That's a big one. Anything can happen. And Louisville, Florida, that's the big game, I think. Yeah, that's the big game of the day is Louisville, Florida. But yeah, Wake Forest, Kentucky. One of those guys will be going to the Final Four. Could have been SC, Kentucky. That would have been amazing. But yeah, Wake and Kentucky. We'll see who's got the heroics in that one. Cal and West Virginia. You know, A-Rock versus Pat White. So we got some very good action here. 2 from the 2006 squad, 2 from 2004, 3 from 2007, 1 from 2005. It's happening. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond.